Welcome to an opportunity to hear from Associate Superintendent Dr. Marcia Smith. She and her family there in the administration building, they've been working hard to get people ready for school. What's that been like, Dr. Smith, with your team working together for a different type of reopening?
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. It's been a process. We have some amazing people working at central office. As you know, we have some new leadership, and we've been working and collaborating on what it will look like to reopen schools for the upcoming school year. We know it's important that we communicate effectively with our families and with our teachers and with our students. And so we're trying to make sure that as we start moving forward with what we're doing, that we're also able to communicate it effectively with people.
Well, one way you've been communicating is with this new website that basically gives parents a lot of information about how school is going to start.
Yes, so I'd like to just show you some basic information on how to access it, and then I'll go ahead and take you to the site. So on our district website, www.sdale.org, on the very front of that page, you will see a symbol that looks something like this, where it says connected and then reopening of schools. And if you click on that button, it will open up into information that pertains to the reopening of schools. So I'm going to take you to that link right now.
Okay.
And so you'll see right now that you have the button on the bottom. There are 3 buttons. You'll choose it, and when you click on it, it will open up into this site right here.
Okay.
And on this site, there is a lot of information. So the reopening of schools, parents can ask questions, or teachers can ask questions. Here is the information of the questions we're answering. Here's how you submit questions. If there's any terminology or definitions, people can access this button. There are some additional links about our face coverings and our plan, but this middle button right here, I'm going to go over in just a minute. It talks about our different learning models, and it's a flow chart.
Okay.
And then scrolling down, you'll see some back to school information for parents, more information on how we'll use technology in our district. We want parents to understand the different programs that their child might be involved in. You'll notice it has pre-K and our after-school program and all-day care programs, athletics, fine arts, and so forth. But this will be programs for our students. We also have a sections for our teachers that really talks about creating lessons in our back-to-school calendar and professional development. And then at the bottom, there are support documents about why some of the decisions are being made. And it connects to the Arkansas Department of Health, Arkansas DESE, the Division of Elementary and Secondary Education. So inside each of these buttons, there's a lot of information that will help families moving forward.
Absolutely outstanding. Great that they have access to that. Very easy. Just go to the website. And then you talked about one of the things you've been working on, and you can see on the screen, are learning models. Why don't you explain a little bit about that to us?
Sure. So we were looking at ways to create learning models that would really support teaching and learning in our district. And the governor stated that schools will reopen to on-site instruction in the fall. And so based on this information, we were trying to figure out the best way to bring forward our learning models. So you'll see this flow chart, and I want to talk about the 3 different models. When you look at this flow chart, it is also on our district website, on the site that I just showed you. So if you'll notice on the top of this, you'll see on-site, blended, and virtual. And each of those, if you click on them on our district website, will go into a more in-depth understanding of what each of these components are. But I'm going to start explaining what virtual is.
Okay.
Virtual are where students are enrolled at the Don Tyson School of Innovation, and they will take all of their classes online. If you'll notice, there are 2 definitions that are important to know, the one asynchronous and synchronous. And if you'll notice at the bottom of this document, synchronous is learning that is self-guided. And so that's important to understand that definition. The other definition is synchronous, which is where the student is actually interacting with somebody in the learning process. And so at Don Tyson School of Innovation, if you sign up to be a virtual student, you will take all your courses virtually. Most of them will be asynchronous, where you're learning at your own pace. But for some of the younger students, we know that synchronous will be required because we know they have to be communicating with teachers in the process. And so that's what virtual looks like in our district.
Now, and for the first time, it's all the way K through 12, correct?
Absolutely. We've just opened it up. Previously, it has not been K through 12, but now any student in our district is eligible to enroll in virtual.
And these are Springdale Public Schools teachers that are providing the curriculum and the teaching, correct?
Absolutely. So this is a Springdale Public School program. It is offered at Don Tyson. Teachers from Don Tyson will be the ones that are teaching the students.
Right. Okay. All right. How about the on-site option?
Sure. So we will be shortly, and I'll show you in just a minute, sending out a survey to parents. But the other option is on-site, where students will come to school 5 days a week. The other option is blended. And this is really where the governor was speaking about when he talked about how can we offer options for families. Our blended will be where students come to school 2 days a week or 3 days a week, depending on what they choose. So when they come in a blended model, they will be learning, and if you'll see the A and B below, they will learn at school 3 days a week and at home remotely for 2 days. Or the other option they have is they can learn at school 2 days and remotely 3 days. The survey will be going out in the next week, and we'll be asking parents to make a decision between on-site and blended. And if they choose blended, we will ask them, would you choose 3 days a week on-site and 2 remote, or vice versa? So we'll be sending that information out.
And what kind of a turnaround would you like on that? How soon would you like parents to make that decision?
So when the survey gets sent out by August 5th, we would like parents to have filled out the survey. We understand that some parents do not have the internet services or do not have technology. So at that time, they can just call the school and tell them what their choice is. So we're going to take different ways of getting that information back. But that's what we would like to do by August 5th. That way we can start planning for the services of students.
Right.
And that is very important. The other thing about this flow chart to understand is if for some reason a school is closed for any reason, or a classroom is closed, then everything becomes remote teaching and learning. And if that happens, then we will add the component of synchronous. And so let me explain this. When you're in a blended model, the days that you are not at school, the days that you are home, you will be working asynchronously, meaning you will be learning by yourself and you will be guided through the materials. But if everybody goes to a remote setting, then teachers will be meeting with you in a synchronous, either through Zoom or Google Meet, and touching base with you at least once a week to make sure that you're progressing. So this is what will happen if we need to go into a full remote situation.
How valuable was it to actually experience it last spring? I know it was different, it was at the AMI, but how much did that help you in your planning getting ready for this academic year?
So it's very important to understand that last year's AMI was really what we would consider a different way of teaching. We know teachers stepped up to the plate and they did an amazing job, but we really didn't cover new material. And this new way of teaching will be on-site or blended or virtual, will be covering new material. And what our goal is that teachers are not going to be creating 2 different lessons, one for on-site, one for blended. That these will work together in harmony, that they'll be teaching a lesson that can be done in class or virtual. And I shouldn't say virtual, I should say or remote. Right. And so it will make it easier for the teachers, but it will also make it easier for students as they come and go to and from on-site. And so it will make it easier. But our goal is to have one one lesson per day throughout the week.
For parents who choose the blended model, some obviously have students that would like to be in advanced placement courses. What will that mean for them if they're in the blended model?
So, like I just said, our goal is not to have different learning taking place. Our goal is to really process how do we create a quality lesson that can be done both on-site and in a remote setting, so that if a student is at home, they have all the tools and materials and instruction to help them keep up with their classmates that might be coming 5 days a week.
Okay,
And
so
that
that
means
applies for AP students as well then.
absolutely, yes, for every student.
Very good. How about for those who are involved with extracurricular activities, whether it would be band or athletics or any other extracurricular?
If they're on a blended, if they're on site, there really will be no change. If they are in a blended setting, the students will be attending school on the days that they are assigned. Anything that takes place prior to the start of school or after school, they are allowed to participate even on their remote days.
Very good. Okay, we obviously talked a little bit about technology. You've covered the three models here in the learning model flow chart. We go to technology. Every student, as I understand it, will have access to technology, correct?
Yes, and so we will be issuing or assigning iPads to grades K through 1, and we'll be Chromebooks to 2 through 12. So parents, this is what the device that your child will be using. We are working diligently to make sure that every single family has access to Wi-Fi. We've also increased the accessibility within our own buildings so that there will be designated parking lots at every single school where anybody can pull up and access the internet. We're also looking for ways that we're joining with Springdale, and they've provided resources out there, and we're going to connect to their sites and offer more extended offerings. We will look at, we're working right now with some of the local Wi-Fi services and trying to make sure that we can extend those opportunities to families. And in certain situations, we know that hotspots might be required for families who are in extreme situations where they're not able to access any of these other things. So we're working to get all this pulled together so that students not only have a device, but they also have a way to connect to the teaching and learning that's happening.
And how advantageous has it been that Springdale, well, before most districts, had one-on-one technology? So these students are used to this, aren't they?
They're very familiar with the technology. What will be new in our district is up to this point, our high school students have taken home their devices, but now we're going to be looking at our younger grades taking home the devices as well. And so that will be new in prepping them and the care of their Chromebook and what that looks like.
Well, Dr. Smith, you've covered a lot of territory here. This has been very informative. Anything else you'd like to share with parents in the Springdale Public School District before we finish?
Well, there's two things. I would like to let parents know that to register for a complete virtual model, they can go to Don Tyson School of Innovation, and they can click on the Virtual Innovation Academy to enroll. If they have any questions or if they're having a little bit of difficulty with any type of maneuvering of the website, they can call the school directly, Don Tyson School of Innovation.
Okay.
The other thing is the survey that will be sent out to parents will look a little bit like this, where part of the information will ask parents to do on-site or blended.
Okay.
And if they choose blended, then there'll be another option about which days they choose. And so this information should be sent out shortly, and we're asking again for parents to try to submit their request by August 5th so we can start planning. Teachers need this time to plan as well. But we also want parents to know that if they don't submit something, we'll go ahead and look at them as being on-site students until we hear otherwise from them. So that's our goal right now, making sure that every student has an opportunity to be in a learning environment that best suits their needs and their family's needs.
Dr. Cleveland has called it maximum flexibility, and that's exactly what you're aiming for, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're still working out a couple things as we move forward, and right now our focus is making sure that teachers have the tools that they need to reopen schools and be prepared for the students to come on the 24th. So we're excited.
Very good. August 24th, that's the opening day, and Springdale Public Schools wants your students back in school. We hope you've enjoyed this very informative session with Associate Superintendent Dr. Marcia Smith. Thank you for joining us.